Hello, dear friends. Metaphysical definition. Reality is an agreement about the appearance of existence. That doesn't prevent the existence of very powerful barriers of space, energy, matter, and time. Opinion piece. New reality. Truth is fluid. Widespread collapse. Collapse of the matrix. Everything is changing. New version of existence. Don't get attached to anything. Let's start. Everything is realigning for the experience of a new realm. Through the change of energy, focus, thought, and belief, things are being put in place so that every soul on earth can be part of a new reality, whether it is 4D or 5D. Timelines are versions of reality that existed 10, 20, or even 50 years ago are no longer an option, says Keshraj. Whatever you are doing right now, whether it is opening yourself up to something bigger or fearing the collapse of the matrix, you are in one way or another contributing to bringing about a new reality. Old ways of being are no longer an option. Why not open your heart, let go of fear, strengthen your trust in the divine, and seek the miracle that is being offered to you now? It's a question. A fifth dimensional reality of true love and freedom, and no limits to growth and exploration. You are proving to the universe that what once thought impossible was made possible because of you, as humankind is emerging from the darkest timelines. What you have done and continue to do is send waves of light, love, hope, and joy to all of creation, says Kesharaj. Definition. The idea that reality is an agreement on the appearing of existence suggests that reality is not something objective and absolute, but is socially constructed. The norms, beliefs, and values shared by a society determine how we perceive and understand the world. For example, in politics, narratives and discourses can shape public perception of reality, influencing decisions. This approach also involves a certain degree of relativism where truth and reality can vary depending on the cultural and historical context. What is considered real or true in one society may not be so in another society. Individual perception also plays a crucial role in this view. Each human being perceives the world in a unique way, influenced by their experience, beliefs, and conditioning. In this way, reality becomes a sum of individual perceptions that intersect and sometimes contradict each other. Visions. According to Poet Dog, it is critical that you consciously participate in the process. If you send it by mail, it will stay in the dead letter office. Science is just beginning to uncover what healers, mystics, philosophers, and sages have known for centuries about light, consciousness, and the human energy field. The human aura is defined as a subtle bioelectromagnetic field that surrounds the body. Vril, chi, and prana are terms related to life force energy. According to Morgan, reality is fluid and shaped by our decisions and actions. Nothing becomes real until we decide act or create change. Our decisions set things in motion, and once that happens, it can be difficult to change direction. That is why it is so valuable to look forward. If we don't like where things are going, we can make changes or prepare. If we like what we see, we can focus on it to help it develop. It's all about staying alert and making informed decisions. Opinions. The Storm Rider explains that we are on an operation to expose artificial weather modification. He also announces that Elon Musk and Donald Trump will mesh the new monetary system with social networks and the new internet in 2026. Both characters are setting up a large social network based on Twitter X that will operate on the new free internet offered by Starlink, and its launch date would be in 2026. They also announced that the front of the most important platforms is being formed that will launch secret information worldwide. Kavamur thinks we are being tested spiritually. If you think Trump's flaws are unforgivable, wait until you find out what their detractors have done for centuries. My Christo 8. Don't be surprised if China devalues the yuan against its gold reserve to get an oil price at $40. The relationship between gold and oil explains why the BRICS are moving to a hard asset-backed currency. Oil is about to crash and China is manipulating the yuan against its gold reserves to crash oil in dollars. The BRICS returned the oil price to the 1971 gold standard. According to Ariel Proletario 1, the agitators are going to say that nothing is being done. It doesn't matter who is brought to justice. They see the system as designed to protect itself rather than the vulnerable, and as a result, any talk of reform or repression seems more window dressing than real change. They don't want accountability. They want scapegoats to fit their vision of a world rigged against them. They don't want clarity. They want the murkiness that gives them the freedom to interpret events in ways that validate their frustration. We are facing a mental health problem. Caution. According to Logan B, we need to be careful what we post. The Davos Forum plans to censor what they call disinformation. Chinese elders made it clear that they have no intention of religion revaluation while Democrats are in power. According to Leo Hohmann, globalists are accelerating plans to cause famine. The weather cult is preparing to accelerate its war on food with 30 nations, including Spain, signing a pledge to place farmers under new restrictions aimed at reducing methane gas emissions. According to Global Alert News, controllers are desperate and more dangerous than ever. The wildlife population has disappeared at a catastrophic rate over the past half-century, according to the Washington Post. The Davos Forum said that if states unilaterally decided to use more radical geoengineering technologies, they could trigger meteorological disturbances. According to Thinker 2, crazy people don't know they are crazy because they have accepted lies as truth. As all evil needs to prosper is for good people to do nothing. When I explain corruption to my neighbor, he doesn't want to hear it. He allows evil to prosper through his willful ignorance. Don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining. You can lie to me, but don't expect me to believe you. Mind rule is achieved through lies. According to Kavamur, we live in separate realities. The more conscious people are not only tasked with teaching others, but also with enduring ridicule and attacks from the less conscious. Most people don't understand that with our physical senses, we can only perceive a limited frequency range, says Kapamur. The shift lifts the veil completely. There are invisible dark forces that cannot directly harm us, but are allowed to lie us and manipulate us into self-destructive decisions. There are currently over 200 million starseeds incarnated on Earth from other worlds, and most will not know what this means until the shift occurs. Starseeds will not return to their original identity until they decide to return home. Economy. Nobel Prize in Economics for research into the causes of prosperity. Nasdaq leads stock market declines as chip makers sink. Oil drops 5% on report Israel won't touch Iranian crude. Global public debt to stop 100 trillion this year, says the IMF. The World Bank wants to increase lending capacity by $30 billion over 10 years. The G20 wants to introduce a wealth tax on billionaires. Asia. China leads the race for ultra-fast charging of electric cars. China announces new tax measures to deal with economic difficulties. 72-year-old doctor lady doctor tortured for her faith dies after leaving prison in China. China-Russia trade grows in 2024 compared to previous years. The Russian ruble becomes the main currency in payments from imports from Asia for the first time. The Russian company Rosatom negotiates with African countries for access to lithium and uranium. North Korea blows up some sections of the tracks that connect it to the south. Middle East. An Iranian general says that they have equipment far superior to nuclear weapons. That information is confidential and would only be revealed in the event of a direct war. UN investigators denounce war crimes for attacks on Gaza healthcare. The UN denounces the displacement of more than 400,000 children in Lebanon during 3 weeks of war. The attack against the UN mission in Lebanon violates international law, according to Guterres. Europe. European markets close lower due to the fall in oil and gas. Europe is at a turning point. It could become a world power or fall into decline and lose ground for the US or China, according to Bloomberg. The French government proposes an austerity recipe to control the deficit. Europe has abandoned the liberal agenda and returned to traditional values, according to political scientist Daria Mitina. European governments want fewer immigrants and more deportations. Von der Leyen proposes creating deportation centers outside the EU for illegal immigrants. Von der Leyen calls for lessons to be drawn from the Italian model against illegal immigration. Finland believes that fatigue with Ukraine is very real in the West. Hungary calls the renunciation of Russian hydrocarbons in the EU irrational. Hungary opposes sending EU military structures to Ukraine. Ukraine's accession to NATO could mean clash with Russia, says Hungary. Mass resignation of British police officers as protests continue. Spain. Rain sets in on the peninsula, putting 9 regions on alert. Thousands of students take to the streets against the new selectivity. The failed housing policy besieged the Spanish government. A massive demonstration swept through Madrid last weekend to protest the high price of real estate. Spain plans to open an immigrant center at the Ciudad Real airport. Extremadura leads the national ranking in tourism growth. The protesters asked the tourists to leave, but more tourists arrived, fortunately for the Spanish economy. Inflation in Spain slows to 1.5% in September, and food inflation to 1.8%. The government presents an adjustment plan to reduce debt to 90.6% of GDP in 2031. Spain installs a clinic to treat migrants crossing the Darien Jungle. Americas. The UN accuses the Venezuelan government of crimes against humanity in the elections. The Mexican government presents a housing construction program. Mexico received 2 awards for acquiring 13 power plants from Iberdrola. Uncertainty about what Mexico's economy will be like with Sheinbaum. Sheinbaum starts her government with a 77% approval rating, according to a survey. Sheinbaum will send an initiative to Congress to provide social security to delivery workers. A summit brings together 111 mayors in Mexico City to discuss solutions. A Nepalese man paid $8,000 to get to the US and was almost killed in Mexico. Shock in Argentina over the dissemination of photos of 22 teenagers naked with artificial intelligence. Milei rules out charging fees at public universities as student protests grow over budget cuts. Thousands of students have occupied colleges across the country. The Chilean prosecutor's office arrests police officers involved in the largest robbery in its history. Petro orders a bombing against a dissident group of the FARC. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.